Okay, we're talking about math practice quiz 7.0. Question number 10 asks the question, what is the average speed? So let's take a moment to talk about this concept, average speed. So what is speed? Speed is a connection, a direct connection between distance compared to time. In the United States, we're used to hearing something like 60 miles per hour, which means you'd cover 60 miles in a 1 hour time period. Because of the way our life is set up, we can come up with a general idea of what that means and what that feels like. That's often the speed limit on some kind of an interstate or a highway, pretty fast speed, technically speaking. So again, speed, we're comparing distance to time. How much distance did we cover in a certain time frame? So those are the two key components. So as we just mentioned, speed or average speed is distance over time, or more specifically, total distance divided by the total amount of time. So total distance, and I'm going to abbreviate here, over the total time. Let's take a look at this in play, or how to apply this. So here we have a basic line graph. On the vertical axis, we have distance. It's labeled in miles. And down below on the horizontal axis, that is labeled time. In this situation, we're talking about hours. So this is just a basic line graph. Maybe somebody's driving a car. And we can see different points here. Let's look at one example. Let's say we're being asked to find the average speed between points B and C. So we know it's going to be total distance over the total time. Let's look at points B and C. So the distance between B and C, we're looking at distance here on the left. At this point, we're at 10 miles, say 10 miles from the city. And then here we are 30 miles from the city. So in this case, it would be 30 minus 10. So this is total distance covered. So 30 minus 10, we know that gives us 20. That's total distance covered. And then the time it takes. So we go from 2 to 4, that's 2 hours. And if you need to subtract in this situation, go ahead and do so, because that's how we're finding the total distance covered, or the total time covered. So in this situation, we know 20 over 2, or 20 divided by 2, gives us 10. So our final answer in this example is 10 miles per hour. Since we're talking about miles and we're talking about hour, that's how we would label it. Normally, we don't have to be too concerned about labels, but our average speed here is 10. So it's total distance divided by total time. And we're finding the total distance by doing subtracting in each case here. Let's look at one more example here. Okay, new question. We're going to find the average speed between C and D. So remember, total distance over total time. Let's look at points C and D. Well, let's look at the distance here. At point C, we're at 30. And point D, we're at, let's call that 50. Let's call that 60. I'll redraw this dot really quickly here so our math works out a little better. So 60 minus 30. We know that's 30. And then let's look at the time here. We got point C and point D. We got 4 hours and 5 hours. So 5 minus 4, that gives us 1 hour. 30 over 1, or 30 divided by 1, equals 30 miles per hour. And that is our final answer. So that's how we find average speed in this line graph situation every time. Total distance divided by total time. Make sure you're subtracting to find the total distance covered and the total time that it took. That's number 10.